And happy Friday, everyone, in Ontario, across Canada, anywhere in the world. My name is Miranda Romanovich. I'm the CEO of the Ontario PSW Association and the host of PSW Podcast, where we are right now streaming live on our Facebook platform, as usual, every Friday, normally at 11, but today we're at 12 o'clock. And we're also streaming live on our Facebook right now, or sorry, our TikTok. So it's interesting kind of dual relationship happening. But thank you so much for joining us. Today we are joined by Ian De Silva, our Chief Operating Officer at both the Ontario PSW Association and CANSWA, and of course Nicole Crawford, our Director of Operations for both associations as well. And we're here to talk about from invisible to indispensable, the history of the personal support worker. And we thought this would be a really neat kind of a topic that we could have over the past like few weeks. We've really been talking about ratios. We've been talking about how people don't really know what the PSW is and what we do. We've been talking about a lot of different things, and now we're going to talk about kind of the history of, I guess, kind of the history of OPSWA too, right, guys? Because OPSWA has been that pinnacle kind of point where we're the ones that put PSWs on the map. But going back, and I'm just going to go right back to the beginning of the PSW, and that was 1998. The personal support worker was created. And from there now, what have we seen? Oh, just jump in, everyone.
Lots. We've seen incredible growth, but a lot more growth to be had and more recognition, respect to be had as well for I think over the years we were more invisible and a silent part of the healthcare team, and I think especially since COVID, and especially since you started the association in 2010, we've become more of the up to the forefront. But it needs to be even more, and that's why we're here too.
Well, I think for me, when we started with OPSWA, about 8 years now, 7 years. I think what we're seeing is the further professionalization of the workforce. We're really been working to define who is and who should be a PSW versus who should not be a PSW. And thankfully, we've discovered that the minority of those who should not be is smaller, and it's good. So that's the one thing we've seen, and I think the pandemic was a huge a reason why we've seen that. So that was propulsion for the whole career.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I remember when I started my PSW career in 2006, and I was actually a part of the first, I was a part of the first kind of um, 8-month program at Mohawk College in 2005. And because initially when I signed up for the course, it was 16 weeks. And then all of a sudden I go to the information session and they're like, oh, it's 34 weeks. This is what you guys are doing. And so that changed my plans a little bit in my life at that time. But I took the course, and what really grabbed me back in those days is when my first job was in long-term care. I was hired before I even graduated, like you, Nicole. And, there was such a demand for PSWs that employers were snapping us up faster than we could keep up at that time. But I remember going into long-term care and thinking to myself, well, where's the support system? I mean, we saw the support system with the nurses. The nurses have incredible lobbying and incredible support across the board, and they are revered like no tomorrow. Same with doctors. But the PSW, who was doing all of the bedside care, especially in long-term care, retirement homes, assisted living, et cetera, we were literally invisible, and we were treated like we could be replaced immediately. So I believe that like a real kind of culture of fear was created in these long-term care homes. And I know for a fact that my DOC did not like me much because I asked a lot of questions, because I didn't really care. I thought, well, if I leave here, I can just go down the street and get another job at another long-term care facility. It wasn't a big deal. And what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing that culture come back, which really scares me, because through COVID, PSWs really, and you're correct on that, Ian, PSWs really found their voice. Like there was amazing advocates born out of COVID. We really showed our importance and our essential, aspect to the interdisciplinary healthcare team. But since COVID now, I mean, and you guys can speak to it from both of your departments, we're really seeing a lot of that fear, that bullying, that kind of, oh, well, we can replace you anytime we want kind of mentality coming from employers. And so, I mean, I'll start with Ian. Ian, what like this is what we're seeing,
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've really been working to try to remedy the culture of fear in long-term care. I remember hearing at nurses conferences that we eat our own in healthcare. That seems to be happening again. Uh, Honestly, and I think it ties back to the reason why PSWs were created in the first place. I think they were created as a temporary solution to support the nursing team, and it was not envisioned, obviously, as a long-term thing. This was supposed to be a transient workforce designed to be that, a transient workforce. However, the need for that personal care has remained intact, and the need for that continuity of care remains. So this is where that initial plan of let's have a disposable workforce is ended, because we need a permanent workforce in frontline healthcare. So for me, that value that translates into that, but we should not be seeing this level of bullying, but yet
No.
it's coming back, and then PSWs are being told regularly. Um, the employers have all of the power, and the PSWs themselves must sit there and take it. So we take great issue with that. So I've kind of gone off topic a little bit, but yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Nicole?
Nicole?
Yeah, like Miranda said, I mean, when we finished school, I had 3 job offers before I even walked across the stage, and we were so needed and wanted, and we were respected so much because of the job that we were able to provide. And I think over the last few years, we've been getting taken advantage of. I think, with all these changes so much with the fixing long-term care and COVID and everything, we kind of get pushed around so much because there's so many changes that they have to abide by. But because we're not regulated, because we don't have title protection, we're just kind of thrown about as we need it. And it's true about just having us be created for a temporary solution, because they needed something to do with the old RPN course, because when the RPN course became the RN course and the RN course became the RPN course, they're like, well, what are we going to do with this 1 year college course? Well, let's make it a PSW course. And it was just one of those, well, let's just do it to bring more people in and get more tuition and stuff like that. But it's just become so important, and the job expectations and descriptions of PSWs have increased so much over, even just the last 2 years. It's now medication administration and long-term care, and now this and now that. It Something has to change. We have to grow with it, but in the right way and have the right respect, and um yeah,
Yeah,
then
I
all
think
the other.
I agree.
Yep.
Yep.
And we
I think
don't.
Yep.
what we're seeing now is an attempt to have a lot more employers taking back control of the profession, which is something we do not agree with. Um,
Yeah.
they won't be able to, but we do understand the rationale behind that. And one of the biggest disappointments I think we've seen is some of the decisions that have come out of Alberta of late with regards to how they're treating their frontline healthcare worker. That's going to be something that we are setting the people of Alberta up. Not we have nothing to do with this. This is the government of Danielle Smith. For reasons passing understanding, she's decided to assign authority of the personal support workers in Alberta to the LPNs. So the people that delegate to the frontline healthcare workers are also responsible for punishing them. So it's a baffling situation. It's a complete reversal of patient safety care. Contrary to what the mission statements say, it is a complete reversal. And I would challenge them to argue against that at any.
Oh yeah, no, I welcome that
All right, win in
argument.
that discussion. But if you're asking about where the abuse in power and how we're going back into, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Or,
No,
yeah,
and you're not wrong. I mean, really, it's what drives me mad. And I mean, the Ontario government definitely has tried to do some sort of regulatory for PSWs, but again, they're going down a registry route, which I just never have fully understood why. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, and when I look at, you know, certain like other careers, other professions, like hairdressers are regulated,
It may,
not personal support workers.
but I mean, every profession is usually regulated by their own, which is fine. But in the case of the regulations in Ontario, none of the senior staff are PSWs or even worked in frontline healthcare at
Yeah,
all.
I know.
There's a major disconnect between their understanding of the sector and this. So what we're seeing is a lot of reliance on employer interpretation of regulations and adhering to what the employers are saying. So this is a huge public safety risk for the people of Ontario that we're going to be bringing into attention because of some of these safety gaps which we've identified. But oh, sorry, yeah, we went off on a bit of a tangent there. It was something totally different. But
Yeah, no, but I mean, but it isn't though, because that's kind of been like the history and the story of the PSW. Like it's it's amazing to me how, you know, we have new PSWs now that come out and they're like, oh, I don't make a lot of money, and they're making like 21, $23 an hour. And I remember the first time, my first job in home care, I was making 9.50 an hour. And you know, the minimum wage for a PSW back then was $12.51. That was our minimum wage. And
yeah,
that was high back then, I guess a little bit high, not really that high. And so,
live on it.
you know, we've done really well in Ontario for the most part in creating positions where a PSW can make a good wage. But where we've really honestly fallen is by not supplying them with full-time hours. Like full-time in long-term care. I mean, how many hearts Nicole and I have broken in even the last week because we have to keep telling people you want full-time in long-term care. That's not going to happen. Like you're lucky if you get on the call list in
Yeah,
a
there.
long-term
We
care.
don't want, like, we don't want to come across as discouraging. We
No.
are just, we're realistic. That's what we're coming, we don't sugarcoat things, and we don't want to be unrealistic with expectations that people have. And I get it from the students all the time. I know there was the question out there about that. And I mean, yes, the prospects for students coming out of their school, take what you get. If you get a casual position, if you get a part-time position, just take it. Please get your foot in that door. There's no way you're going to get that experience or that opportunity to get those full-time jobs if you don't take it if you don't take it in the first place.
And I
It's
think
hard.
that's honestly one of the reasons why we're getting so many emails where they're like, no, yeah, I can't find a job, is because they're waiting for that perfect job. And then we have employers that call us that are screaming for PSWs, but you know, PSWs don't want to do it because it's only 19 an hour, or you know, it's
Yep.
not with full benefits. Which, show me a job like that PSWs get
Yeah.
full benefits, because
Yeah.
that's also something that really doesn't occur in the PSW world. But where I get concerned now is that when I was in school to become a PSW, they told us the truth. They laid it out for us and said, this is what it is to be a PSW. This is the obstacles you're going to face.
Yeah.
But again, too, in 2006, there was a huge demand for PSWs, and employers didn't have the power they have now.
Yeah.
Not as much at that point. And now what we're seeing is like students coming out and being like, but I got told that I can get a job at a county a regional long-term care home, and it would be full-time and I'd be making 27 bucks an hour. And I just laugh at them because I'm like, you
Yeah.
really honestly think? Like, I had PSWs, now healthcare aides, really honestly, back then, that had been working at our long-term care facility for 25, 30 years. Those were our full-timers. Those were the ones that had the full-time hours. You
Yeah.
know, so there has to be a reality check, I think, with a lot of the students that are coming out right now.
You're absolutely
Especially because there's a lot of international students
Yeah.
that are taking the PSW course, and so they have very, very high expectations because they're thinking, and unfortunately I think it has to do with some of the schools as well, giving them unrealistic expectations, because they're like, you're going to do this course, you're going to finish this course, you're going to be a certified PSW, you're going to get a full-time job. But I
well.
don't know if it's just, and they have that expectation. They want the job in the hospital or the regional long-term care home. And it's not reality. It can't be reality, unfortunately. I wish it was. but it's not, and it's detrimental, especially for these international students who are relying on these things to obtain their PR status, or extend their work or study permits, and
The-
it's
and we had the meeting yesterday with
yeah,
KMPR, our new partner, about this, and it's a huge issue right now, and it has to do with a lot about, and we have to forgive ourselves as a country a little bit,
Yeah.
simply because we've been faced with enormous challenges as a society and an economy. Really, beginning with the pandemic is one we keep going back to that, but once the pandemic hit, we saw the evidence of bad government planning. I hate to say that, but when the pandemic hit, we were desperately unprepared. The government was simply not prepared. And the need for PSWs was so disregarded that when the time came for them to actually show up, there wasn't any there. And the government began to really act and to incentivize people to join. And we began a campaign to the such. And now we're seeing the reverse of that, where finally those seeds have been planted. And now we're seeing a large influx of PSWs coming in with the expectations from the pandemic. So it's a major disconnect, and it's going to
And
continue.
you're right about that though, Ian. There is that expectation for the same benefits and the same hours and the same everything that was happening through COVID.
Absolutely.
But none
And
of that is happening.
no, and because what we've seen is employers who will not be named were more than happy to take certain PSWs during the COVID, regard them as heroes. But once the native populations in the region decided that the COVID was gone, and you know who you are, community, once that happened, they disregarded the newcomers. So this was a situation where we had hundreds of immigrants helping a community in Ontario during the COVID, saved hundreds of lives, worked hours. Once the COVID was over, that community decided that they were foreigners and they didn't need them anymore, and they were all fired. This is all true. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's how people respond. So
Sad
that's
reality to all
yeah,
of it, honest to God. I mean, it's just, but at the same token, I mean, I remember back when I graduated as a PSW, went into the community as a PSW, and it nobody knew anything about personal support workers back then.
well,
And I'm finding that, like when we do events or whatever, like Nicole and I were just at an event here in Cambridge a few weeks ago, and we had all these members of the public that came up to us and said, "How do we support you? What can we do for personal support workers? You guys are the angels at the bedside. You guys are truly making a difference." I got goosebumps while I'm saying it. But you know what I mean? And because I had
yeah,
goosebumps, and because the public is really understanding the difference between a PSW and a nurse, which was very essential. That needed to happen. And how important the PSW is to the core health of Ontario healthcare.
and also setting expectations of what nurses can deliver in terms of patient care appropriately. So many people think that they're going to have the nursing care full time in Ontario. That's not going to happen. It's going to be a person support worker that provides you care, with a nurse delegating that care.
Yeah,
So nurses involved, absolutely, unless it's a private
private
situation.
care. Yeah.
But yeah,
I
so
mean, it is. People think that an RN is going to go into their home and be there 5 days a week.
yeah,
And they're like, well, it's free care from the government. That's what should be happening.
yeah.
No, that's not what's happening. And that's, in a perfect world, I think that'd be wonderful, but not in this world, needless to say. And so I mean, if I think about the years of PSWs, I think about the training of the personal support workers. Nicole, you and I can get into that in a minute. Going back to when I went to school, part of the first kind of group of fresh PSWs going through the new 8-month program, and I'd done university before this, and I was busier in the PSW program than I ever was in my university course. I'll tell you that much. And then now seeing the program now, and the PSWs coming out from, and I'm not going to name, but from certain programs that, I remember one of our PSWs once told me she was working in the ICU at a hospital, and a PSW had been hired, and she came in for her shift in jeans and a blouse.
Oh, right, yes.
Do you remember that?
I
Yeah,
remember
from,
that.
because of the online training from COVID, which was not cool. And then, or, when someone dies, like these PSWs are losing it at the bedside, can't handle when somebody passes away. a lot of them are missing essential parts to the PSW program that I don't think exist anymore in the program, because they've just fast tracked it. I mean, at one point years ago, and you'll remember this conversation we had with the government where we said the PSW program needs to be longer. It needs to be longer because we're literally just being taught the base
Mhm.
of PSW. I call it the novice because from there it's like I did courses in mental health. I did courses in palliative care, dementia, just to, build my portfolio, but also my knowledge base so that I could provide proper care to those that I was caring for at that time. And nowadays it's like PSWs are like they're coming out and they don't know they can specialize and they don't know that they can do these things, which blows my mind.
We're still,
Absolutely.
Interesting.
go ahead.
It's really interesting in that sense because the amount of transcripts that I see on a daily basis while processing the memberships, it's really interesting to compare a transcript from a current PSW program and compare it to my transcript. And it's almost not the same program. They don't have the same things. And I mean, I love the fact that they went really in depth with the developmental psychology and with the health across the lifespan. And I know that I was instrumental along with a few of my classmates in introducing a home care portion into the Niagara College curriculum. I sat on the PSW and nursing advisory committee for Niagara College for a few years after I finished my program. And that was the one thing that came up all the time of what can they do to enhance the program. And I said, I really think a big thing is that you have some of these students, whether it be international students or very young students, they're coming out of this course and they're going in to do home care and they don't even know how to fry an egg. They don't
Yeah.
know they don't know basic meal prep. So I
You
said
hear
this
that
is
all the
like
time.
they
Yeah.
need to you need to introduce something. And so they started out the year after they introduced it as a trial and they were doing almost like it was like almost a home economics class. They were doing it in the culinary kitchens. Now I was really excited to see, I think it was last year I went back to Niagara College to do a talk, and they actually have a full lab now that is set up that looks like somebody's house. They have a kitchen, living room, and bathroom set up like it would be in somebody's ordinary home. And they
Mhm.
now have a component integrated into the course for that purpose. And it's needed because they don't have the same stuff on their curriculum now that they even did when we did it. So it's surprising that they're using these 2014 and above guidelines for specific
Oh,
things,
yeah, which we'll get
but
into over the next few weeks. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's so true, Nicole, because when I was doing my PSW program, I was at Mohawk College and there was a whole clinic there as well. They had it set up for bathroom, kitchen. We had to learn how to cook. There was a whole home care portion in the second semester of the program. And now it's like, depending upon where you go to school, and I just want to keep in mind, everyone is watching, Nicole and I went to community colleges. So our experience will be different from people that go to career colleges or board of education. It'll be a massive difference in a lot of ways. Some better, some not, but it's we're really seeing some big holes in the PSW training nowadays, and we're doing our best as OPSWO to try to fill some of those holes, because one of the things that just blows my mind too is when they graduate and they come out and they're like, I can only work in community care, home care, or long-term care or hospital. That's only places I can work. And we're going, says who?
Ooh.
Says who? Like the PSW can work anywhere. We have
And
PSWs
when,
out in
when
the
we do our
Waterloo.
talks,
Yeah.
like when we do our talks at the colleges to the PSW students, it blows them away when we get to that slide that says you can specialize in this, and this. You can work here, here. We say you can work in the school board. They're like, huh? I'm like, do you realize over the past like 5-6 years how many school boards are actually hiring PSWs instead of ECEs or on top of ECEs? Because then the medically complex kids can now come to school full-time because you have a full-time PSW there to be able to provide the personal care and the tube feeding. And so but they don't realize this. It's not expanded enough. I think it's something that's so stagnant, and I think there needs to be a revamp and an enhancement in the PSW program, and either make it 2 years or make it a diploma program and put more courses in it that are going to enhance that program as a whole, instead of just what it is now.
Yeah.
And not giving those students exactly what they need to get out there in reality and be a PSW in 2025.
Well, if I can go in, like if you looked at the last 20 years, 30, 40 years in Ontario, we've moved really big into integrating the special needs population into mainstream society as much as possible. This has been an absolutely a necessary thing we've needed to do, because in the past we had everyone institutionalized and it was a nightmare. So we don't want to go back down that road. So part of that is requiring these people to integrate into society, which means the PSW must also integrate likewise. So that exactly is what we're saying, is that because they're in all elements of society, the demand is everywhere, their skill sets are hugely valued and can be specialized.
Yeah.
So it's an important role, especially for creating equity in our society and delivering equitable ways of life.
Well, why not, right? Like we always say, PSWs take care of anybody from 0, that's the perinatal support workers, all the way up to 150. And then we make the joke that after 150, they're on their own. But I mean, like, we take care of everybody in their lifespan. And it doesn't matter, what age you are, where you're living, what you're doing. I mean, I hire PSWs when my son was younger, he has autism. And I hired personal support workers to work with them, because when you look up who teaches life skills, it literally says on Google personal support workers. So, I mean, I think our scope, our realm of practice, shall I say, is a lot more broad than what a lot of PSWs even realize that it is. They think it's a very regimented, right? Regimented, this is all we do. It's like we do a ton more.
Well, also, I think what you're also looking at, and I think what we're also just thinking of this now, what we're seeing happening in Ontario now is the real modernization of healthcare delivery. Now, when you integrate a population into the general population, which we've been really good to do, you need to have corresponding institutional systems that can accommodate that. We were continue to rely on a 19th century system in Ontario, rigidly enforced to deliver patient care and to respond to patient care complaints and gaps.
Yeah.
It doesn't work because those systems are set up for a very antiquated approach where everything happens in a hospital. Hospitals are sacrosanct, and that's it. So, and everyone is part of these old-fashioned 19th century colleges. It's literally a Victorian model.
Yeah.
in this period, which is baffling. And we're not alone. It's right across the world. So it's just been, it needs to
You know
modernize.
what, though? But if you look over at countries like the Netherlands or
Yes.
Denmark or Sweden, like they've really done us. And I invite anyone watching this to look that up.
Right.
They have
Revolutionized, yeah.
Oh, they've revolutionized healthcare in their countries. It's phenomenal. Like I remember my grandmother, bless her soul, my Oma, I'm Dutch. I remember when I was talking to her when I was a PSW about working in long-term care or whatever, and it baffled her that even got to that point. That, and she goes, well, why aren't they at home in their homes? And I said, well, because their families couldn't take care of them and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's a very European thing that you just take care. I mean, granted, my Oma did move to a retirement home. But then when she was palliative, she went with my aunt, who's a palliative care nurse, or was one. So we're very fortunate in that factor. But it's just a different mindset. And this is was a very European country. And now we're seeing massive changes with a lot of immigration, cultural changes, wonderful things. But we need to keep up. And we're not keeping up. I mean, when I look at long-term care or even retirement homes or even home care, like, home care is a bloody mess. I mean, really, it's an absolute bloody mess. I mean, I have an aunt who has a husband with dementia, and she told this one company, no mornings. I can't have a PSW come in the morning to help my husband shower. And she got phone calls 2 days in a row in the morning for the PSW to come. And
Yeah,
I'm
because
going like,
bureaucrats delivering the services and it confuses everything. Yeah,
you
they need
gotta
to
have,
clean
just
house
like
a
we
little.
always say, guys. Yeah, I know. But just like we always say, in order to speak for a profession, you need to be of that profession. That's
Absolutely.
why I'm a PSW and I run the Ontario PSW
Yep.
Association. You know, if you're going to be, you know, the best care coordinators are personal support workers or nurses who have worked in home care.
Yep.
Those ones are the best. People that have no idea what the heck they're doing shouldn't even be in that position. Plain and simple. If you don't understand it,
One of my first jobs in home care, I worked for a company, and my coordinator who went to the homes, did the care plans, and then did the scheduling for the PSWs, she was a physiotherapist. Make that
My
make sense.
profession, but it's extremely different from a personal support
Totally
worker.
different than, yeah, than the care and the care plans that she's having to create for the patients.
you know, I'm just guys, I'm just sick and tired of everyone thinking that our jobs as a PSW is so bloody easy and that you don't need to understand it in order to schedule it because you have no idea. I mean, it's ridiculous. 15-minute visits for a shower.
Well,
Oh,
let's go back, Miranda. This is back to the 19th century. The
all right.
19th century model of care is doctors, nurses, patients. Patients are at the end of the line. And that's how we treat patients in Ontario. You are the end product. Whatever we can give you is good enough. Hope for the best.
That's what my
There's a
aunt
huge
got told.
disconnect. There's a
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge disconnect. There's a
yeah,
disconnect with,
huge disconnect
you
because
know, because
it's an antiquated governance model.
and you have these employers and the Ministry of Long-Term Care and the Ministry of Health saying, okay, well, we want PSWs to do this now. So now they're introducing all these different things that PSWs have to do, but they're not getting that education in the school level. So it's like it's creating these disconnects in
Well,
experience and education.
they introduced the medication program into the Ministry of Long-Term Care. We've been asking for a training module for 4 years. 4 years, they have
Yeah.
I've not received a response on my email because there is no plan for that.
No.
There is no plan because they just think, well, just throw them in there. But I mean,
Yeah.
guys, we've also gone over our time now
Oh,
for
shoot,
PSW
sorry.
podcast. It's
Yes,
no, it's a good
12:32.
conversation, and I think that we definitely should continue this conversation, maybe at a later date on another PSW podcast, because you know it's and we want to hear from the PSWs. We want to hear from you guys. So I mean, like, what changes have you seen? What changes need to be, you know, thrown out the door, shall I say? Um,
And what and there are a lot of good PSW employers. Can we get some good
Yeah.
stuff?
there are
Positive.
We
absolutely.
got to
Give
be
us
more
positive
positive.
stuff.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of good things happening. I just realized we've been negative and we shouldn't be
I
this
get
negative.
it.
Well, and I know who we're negative about, and that's just because we're bitter because of what they're doing to their PSWs. But there are a lot of really great employers out there that really do love and appreciate the personal support workers. I'm just going to say a big thank you, Nicole and Ian, yet again for joining me, both of you this time on
Yep.
PSW podcast. And next week, I'm not going to be here. So I believe Ian, you are hosting PSW podcast next
Yes,
Friday.
Friday.
So that's going to be fun. Friday at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I have a topic for that and I completely escapes me right now.
It's okay. Our marketing director will put it
Yeah,
out next week.
forgive
So
me.
stay tuned for that. And then the following week, I'm actually interviewing a PSW TikToker who is going to come on and talk about, you know, her videos that she makes on her TikTok. Her name is Laurel, and I'm really looking forward to interviewing her as well. So stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned for lots of really good information. Remember, our merch is now available. We have t-shirts, we have graduation shirts, we have keychains. We're going to have a lot more coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned into that. And with that, guys, I'm going to say thanks again for joining me. Enjoy your long weekend, PSWs. And remember,
Yes,
we see you. Thank you for working this weekend. And with
absolutely.
that, I'm now going to go on TikTok for a Q&A for half an hour. But with that, we're going to say, Obswa out.
Well,